Contract of sale, the holy grail for real estate in New Jersey. This is a standard document used on every sale. As agents here, we are permitted to fill in the blanks in this contract. So think of it that way when you're doing this. You're not reinventing the wheel. You shouldn't be changing terms too drastically. Filling in the blanks here, this marked up contract shows you kind of, for the most part, for majority of deals, what to type, what to put where. If you haven't done it already, you should read this. I mean, you should print this and read it. I would once a week, once a month, whatever. You know, I could tell you that Section 9 is regarding the CO and Section 16 is regarding inspections. You should be able to have some general idea of how this contract operates, what each section means. If nothing else, this document. So, but it is in layman's terms. You can read it, and a lot of times, you know, we get questions all the time. When is something due? What do I do with X? What does it say in the contract? What does it say in the contract? These are the four walls, this piece of paper, these are the four walls that we operate within in a transaction. So you want to know when something's due? What's it say in the contract? So we're going to go through this right now. But yeah, read it, learn it, love it. So page 1, pretty simple. Who do you represent? The person that's filling this out, who do you represent? Okay, typically it's going to be, you know, buyer, seller, or both, if it's dual agency, right? Dual agency doesn't just mean that you represent both the buyer or the seller. It means that any agent within KW, Morristown, Cherry Hill, or any other office that George Denny is the broker at is dual agency. If it's not George Denny, if he's not the broker, then it's not dual agency. So check off the correct box. This goes over attorney review, page 1 here, okay? And they have a big warning box for me here. When you go through this, don't skip stuff because you don't know the answer. Not cool, okay? It's all we're doing is filling in the blanks here. If you're not sure what the answer is, ask the other agent. Check Bright, look in public records, do a little bit of research when you're filling this out. Everybody relies on this document to be accurate, and you're the first person that people are going to look to when it's not filled out properly. Or, you know, I see sometimes agents don't put addresses on here, they don't put the cell phone number of the other agent. Take the time to do it right now. Learn good habits now. It's very important. So, signature lines here on page 1 for the listing broker and the buyer's agent to sign, and then who prepared it. So your name goes here. And it doesn't matter who prepares this, buyer's agent or listing agent. Does not matter. There's no rule. Typically the listing agent prepares it, but in this strong seller's market, a lot of times buyer's agents are preparing this so they don't waste time. Get it done, get it signed, so attorney review can begin the next day. So when does attorney review begin? That's outlined here on page 1. Attorney review begins the next business day after the fully executed, aka fully signed by all the sellers and all the buyers, is signed and delivered. So attorney review begins the next business day after the contract is fully signed and delivered to all parties. So if you are filling this out, you're going to fill this out, send it over to the other agent. The other agent's going to have their client sign it, or you're going to have your client sign it first and then send it over. Once everybody signs it, and whoever signed it second then sends it back to the people who need to get a fully signed version. So listing agent gets it, has the seller sign it, your buyer's already signed it. Now they email it back to you. Whether or not you confirmed receipt does not matter. Attorney review begins the next business day. Email is considered delivered. And then it goes 3 business days, right? All right. So you, again, fill in the blanks here. It's very simple. Buyer's name, seller's name, their address, the seller's address. If you don't know the seller's address, get it from Bright, get it from listing agent, get it from public records. You can figure it out. At least put something in here. All right, then this is your property that they're buying, and all this stuff is in Bright and in public records. Block and lot, put that on there. It's important when your buyer's title company pulls title, they want to match the block and lot to the property address that you're putting in here. So use Bright for the municipal tax map, for example. This is important because let's say you're selling a property in Marlton, that is shown on the municipal tax map of Evesham Township, right? Not Marlton. Same thing would go for something like Westmont. That would say Haddon Township here, not Westmont. So, but your address here might say, you know, 123 Main Street, Marlton, NJ, but the municipal tax map is Evesham. So check that, it's in Bright if you're not sure. But typically it's the same matches. Typically these two match. All right, so these numbers cause confusion all the time. Most common thing that causes confusion are these numbers here. So I broke everything down on this page for you to look at to explain it, and a couple examples here. So I'm just going to, since I'm talking, I'm going to explain it here. The purchase price is what your buyers offered, what was accepted. So in this example, $200,000, your buyers offered $350 with the $10,000 seller concession. The concession doesn't matter. It's what's the purchase price, the $350,000, the top line number. Now, initial deposit is often confused with the buyer's mortgage down payment, and so is additional deposit. The down payment is nowhere on the contract, so get the down payment out of your head. All that we care about is the actual mortgage amount, the beginning balance for the mortgage. So initial deposit is escrow. That's the money you're going to get now up front, typically 1 to 2% of the purchase price. It's on your offer. It was in your offer. So whatever that number is for their escrow, that's what goes for the initial deposit line. Could be 1,000, could be 5, 10, 20,000, whatever it is for your deal. The next line that gets filled out is additional deposit. It's almost always zero. In 999 out of 1,000 deals, that's zero. This is just additional escrow. Maybe you said, hey, after we get through inspections, we'll give you another 10,000 for escrow. That's probably the most common way that that's used, but again, this is just for escrow and has nothing to do with the buyer's down payment or mortgage. The only line that has to deal with their mortgage is this line, 47. This is the beginning amount on the buyer's mortgage. So how much of a mortgage are they taking out on the property? So in this example, let's say that our buyer's 10% conventional. Fantastic. What we can see is we could work the math backwards. The only time you're going to care about what the down payment is right here to get this number. If it's not on the pre-approval, and it might be, you could, if you knew the buyer's 10% down, you could simply do 200,000 minus 10% down. So what's 10% of 200,000? It's 20,000. So 200,000 minus 20,000 is 180,000. That is the beginning balance of the mortgage in this example here. And then the balance of the purchase price is just simple subtraction. You just do 200,000 minus 5 minus 0 minus 180,000 equals 15,000. Okay? So let's go down here and let's look at it one more time. So look at these mortgage amounts here. Purchase price, 300,000 with 3.5% down. So let's say you got an FHA, you're the buyer, you made an FHA offer, 3.5% down, that's all that you know. Well, if it's not on the pre-approval, you would say, what is the beginning mortgage balance? You're going to do 300,000 times 0.965. That's going to give you the number that would go in that mortgage line here. Again, it's pretty simple math, but I get it. Another way to do this would be to do 300,000 times 0.035, right? And then you could subtract that number from 300,000. It's going to give you the same thing. So if you're not sure, ask the lender. What is the mortgage amount? What is the mortgage amount? Make sure that that number is accurate and in the right place. This number, line 47, should be identical to what you have in here on line 75. So principal amount of the mortgage, beginning balance of the mortgage. Those two numbers should be the same. Line 47 and 75 should always be the same. So here's a couple more examples on how you would fill it out. The only time it gets weird is for VA because the numbers don't add up because there is an initial deposit of whatever, and the mortgage is, since they're putting 0% down, matches the purchase price. So in that case, the balance just becomes 0. You can use this example. If it was 500,000, it would work the exact same way. You'd have 500,000, 5,000, 0, 500,000, and 0. So of course, your VA buyers are 0% down, but they're going to have probably 10 to 15,000 in closing costs. So their initial deposit, their escrow, will go towards the closing costs, right? So we can move on to the next page now. Filling out the contract, and you want to know what is the initial deposit. That is escrow. Okay, who's holding escrow? It should match what you put on your offer. It's generally the title company. If you're not sure, if it's not marked anywhere, check off title company. That's who we want to hold it. And then you're going to write in this line right here. You can write the buyer's title company. If you don't know what title company they're going to use, don't wait. Just write buyer's title company here or write title company here. Don't wait to get this signed for that simple information. So this is additional deposit. We're leaving that blank because we don't have one, right? So you can see initial deposit paid to title company on or before blank, and if left blank, within 5 business days after the fully signed contract has been delivered to both the buyer and the seller. So hey, when is the deposit due? Read this. If you put a date in here, then it's due on that date. If you didn't put a date in there, it's due within 5 business days after the fully signed contract has been delivered to both buyer and seller, not affected by attorney review. All right, so here we're going to write whoever's holding it. Typically going to be the title company name. It might be the listing agent or the attorney. And then this is who, if it's a title company, if it says your hometown title, that's who the escrow check's going to be made out to, right? All right, Section D is talking about mortgages. So if it's cash, it's just left blank. You don't have to put anything in here. Sometimes for cash deals, agents check off other and write cash in here. And again, this number should match what you had up above. For the beginning mortgage balance, term is typically 30 years with a 30-year payment schedule. When buyers do less than 30 years, they typically do that after they go under contract. You typically don't know that up front. So this is generally how this would be filled out. And then you want to check off what type of mortgage it is. Is it VA, FHA, conventional, 203K, or something else? Typically, you're going to be either FHA, conventional, VA, right? All right, so now this is the mortgage commitment due date. This is an important date of the contract. Read this paragraph and understand what it means. The mortgage commitment due date should be, it can be left blank so long as it doesn't make it due after settlement. So let's look at this example. We are going to close on February 26, 2021. In this example, this is our settlement date. So we want to make sure our mortgage commitment is due before that. So if you read this, it says the mortgage commitment is due within 30 calendar days after the attorney review period is completed. Well, that could be, so 30 calendar days after attorney review is completed. What if you get delivered contracts on a Thursday? Day 1 of attorney review is Friday. Let's say Monday's a holiday. Day 2 is Tuesday of next week, and then Wednesday. So that's like 37 days for the commitment to be due, and we're closing a lot of these deals faster than that. So you want to just make sure you do a little bit of math or thinking there, and if this commitment is due after the settlement date, then you want to put in here maybe a week before the settlement date is generally good. So in this case here, I would put 2/19/21 here, okay? But if your settlement is like 45 or 60 days out, you can leave this blank. But if it's 30-day settlement, make sure that the commitment is due before your settlement. Otherwise, you're going to have to change it. And especially if you're the listing agent, you want to make sure that you have a date in here that is before the settlement date, okay? All right, because if you'll read this, you'll see for the mortgage commitment due date, this is actually an out if you don't provide the mortgage commitment on time. So you better have a date in here, and you better make sure you have it on your calendar, and your buyer's lender or the buyer's lender provides the mortgage commitment by that date. All right, this is just our settlement date here. That's it. So you can put your settlement date here or on this line, doesn't matter. Some people type or before, so they would type will take place on, and then they write here or before 2/26/2021. So if you want to close sooner than that, as long as everybody agrees, it's fine. All right, so these section 6 here are inclusions and 7 are exclusions. So look at the MLS. Typically, inclusions would be washer, dryer, refrigerator. Okay, don't put dishwasher there. Don't put stove there. Those things are included automatically. Read this sentence here. Read this paragraph here, and you'll see that. All right, so if something should be included, like a dishwasher, and they are taking the dishwasher with them, never seen that, but let's say that happens, that would be put on here under excluded. You would put dishwasher here. If they're taking the refrigerator, washer, and dryer, technically they don't need to be listed under either of these because they're automatically excluded. The reason is they're not bolted to the wall. However, for big questionable items like a washer, dryer, and refrigerator, a pool table, spa, something like that, anything that could be argued either way, you're going to want to make sure that you either put it in included or put it in excluded. You can read all the little tips here. All right, so next is the Certificate of Occupancy, Section 9, very important piece of the contract to understand. So the only thing that we can really do here is put a number in this blank, because if you leave it blank, then it's the number that goes here is 1.5% of the purchase price. On a $500,000 deal, that could be $7,500. So the reason why we put a number here, usually like $1,500, $500, $1,000, is because what happens is, let's say that the seller goes to get the certificate of occupancy from the township, and the township makes them, for example, Collingswood doesn't allow gravel driveways. Let's say you go in their CO inspection. So you go to get the CO, they come out and they say, sorry, you have a gravel driveway, we're not issuing the CO until you put a concrete driveway in. That's going to cost your seller $5, $6, $10,000, I don't know. So in the event that happened and we had $1,500 here, since the cost to put in the driveway to get the CO would be more than the $1,500 threshold, so long as the seller reimburses the buyer the deposit monies and reasonable expenses like moving expenses, additional rent incurred, any expenses, inspection fees, appraisal fee, any expenses the buyer incurred, then the seller would have the right to basically say, I'm out of the deal, unless the buyer wants to say, okay, I'll put up the extra money to fix the driveway. But again, we're talking $999 out of 1,000 deals. This, no matter what you put in here, the seller's going to get the CO, right? Because if the deal falls apart, now what? The seller's going to put it back on the market, and they're going to need to get a CO, so they're going to end up paying for it by a reduced price or they're just going to end up paying for it no matter what. So usually the seller will get the CO even if this exceeds that $1,500 threshold or whatever you're going to put in there, but that's the common number we put here. $1,500 is what I recommend putting there. And then the last part of this says the seller shall comply with all New Jersey law and local ordinances. Very important to understand because smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, sprinklers at the cost of which shall be paid by the seller are not considered as a repair cost. So let me reiterate. This sentence says that it should not be considered a repair cost. So this is exempt from our $1,500 we put here, which can be an issue because local ordinances in New Jersey include permits. So what this sentence right here means is that the seller has to, basically provide clear permits if the buyer makes an issue, and there's no limit to how much that could cost the seller. So if they did an addition or finished basement or something like that, and there's no permit, and the buyer makes an issue, and the buyer says you need to provide a clear permit, a clean, closed-out permit, final permit, then the seller may, be obligated to go and get that no matter what the expense is, and that could be very costly. So just something to note in there, but not usually an issue. All right, Section 10 should always be has not. Okay, you can read it and understand it. Type single here, or if it's a duplex, you can type 2 family, or triplex, type 3, whatever. Okay, but typically it's going to be single. If it's a condo, you can type condo, or some people type condo there, but I typically just would type single, or condo, or duplex, or whatever. All right, tenancies, self-explanatory, right? If there is a tenant, the tenant lease goes past the closing date. Make sure you understand this, okay? An attorney should be involved then. Security deposit, by law, needs to be transferred from the current landlord to the new landlord. You want to make sure you have all that stuff accounted for. The new lease is going to transfer to the new owner. So important to understand if you have tenants in a property. All right, so 13 is about lead-based paint. It's important to understand lead-based paint, okay? It's most transactions that we deal with were built before 1978, which means that this clause applies. And if you're not sure if it was built before 1978, check Bright. It's not a big deal, so you just check off applicable. And this is the lead-based paint clause. You can read it, and easy to understand. And we're also going to attach the lead-based paint addendum, which gives the buyer the right to do a lead paint inspection. It's uncommon that they're going to do that, but that is within the buyer's rights. All right, so Poet, as I check this off here, I just have a deal right now with the first ever Poet system, but still don't really know what it is. Okay, so typically it's going to be not applicable. It only applies if your seller has, as far as I know, well or septic, and in some cases there. But this is typically going to be checked off as not applicable. Cesspool should definitely be no, and then you should check off this one as well. No cesspool at the property. Okay, obviously, so it's New Jersey state law mandates that if the property has a cesspool and it's sold, that it be terminated at the time of sale. So make sure that there is no cesspool there. And then these are skipped, okay, because there is no cesspool. Now this is the most important section of the contract. Arguably it's the inspection contingency clause. So what I want you to understand about this is we have multiple parts. We don't just have one big part just about the home inspection. We also have radon, and we also have termites. And there's separate paragraphs here. So you need to be really careful when we're talking as is. What does that mean? Does that include the entire paragraph, or does that only include the home inspection? Because if it only includes the home inspection and then there's termite damage, if we read this paragraph, it says that the seller's got to bear the cost up to 1% of the purchase price to remedy that issue. So this is when you want to, you start to mess with the language and do these as-is deals and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you're being very clear. Are we waiving the entire inspection contingency or only the home inspection portion? And the buyer's still allowed to have the termite inspection, and then if there's 5,000 in issues, the seller's obligated by the contract to fix it. So definitely read this. These are the thresholds for radon that, over the seller has to, over 4.0 PCI/L, the seller needs to take care of. We're going to scroll down here, and one of the things to note, people ask this sometimes, is that the home inspector needs to be licensed. I had that somewhere. It's highlighted somewhere in here, but it's not highlighted. But the home inspector needs to be a licensed home inspector in New Jersey, so you can't just have Uncle Tom do the inspection and send over a napkin with 17 repairs on it. It's got to be a licensed home inspector. Uncle Tom is welcome to attend the inspection and point anything out to the inspector that he wants to seal in the report, but when the buyer's asking for repairs, they need to be referencing an actual home inspection report. And one sentence that I love on this contract is buyer acknowledges the property is being sold in as-is condition. Interesting, right? Our standard contract says that every deal is sold in as-is condition. So yeah, we still add this language later when we're talking about inspections and appraisal and stuff like that. All right, so we can scroll down here, understand your timelines. Hey, how long does the buyer have to do inspections? This date needs to be on your calendar. It's 14 calendar days after the attorney review period is complete. Okay, that date should be on your calendar day one. You do not want to miss the inspection deadline. If your buyers don't get their repairs over by the end of that timeline, they're going to be in big trouble if they want repairs to be made, and it's going to end up falling back on you. All right. So we can continue to scroll down here. Here we go. The licensed home inspector here. Qualifications of home inspector. Needs to be licensed. Licensed or certified by the state of New Jersey for such purpose. Okay, airport safety. You can read these sections. I'm not going to go into them. I definitely thought that I had more typed in here, but it's okay. Under the initial and final walkthroughs, one section to quickly touch on. The buyer gets two. The buyer actually has the right to have two walkthroughs prior to settlement, an initial and a final walkthrough. Not many people take advantage of both walkthroughs. They only take advantage of that final walkthrough. So if the property, you have inspection and you think there's going to, repairs need to be made, the seller is going to do a couple things, fix a couple things. There's nothing wrong with, and I would encourage you to go check those repairs out as your initial walkthrough before your final walkthrough, so you don't show up there the day of settlement and learn that the repairs you were expecting to be made have not actually been made. So. Good on that. Maintenance and condition of the property. Obviously, the seller is going to maintain the condition of the property. This sentence here is important. This is how it should be left. It should be left in room clean condition. Okay, how should the property be left? Room clean. Does it say repainted? No. Does it say without any wear and tear in the house? No. It just says room clean. Okay, so if there's nail holes, within reason, it's okay. Really, anything major, there's a fist hole, fix it. Okay, spackle it at least. Use your judgment on this stuff, but this is another great reason why, once you know that the seller is out, go check it out. Whether you're the listing or the buyer's agent, go drive over there, check it out, say, okay, this looks good, or it doesn't. Prevent an issue from happening day of settlement. Nobody likes those. All right, so now we're talking about the agent information here. All right, so this section 29 here is the person who's filling this contract out. So it's you, so it's going to be Keller Williams Realty, and then your name goes here. Okay, don't worry that there's two lines here, just put the KW here and your name here, and then check off who you're operating as. If you're a disclosed dual agent, you can check that off, and you can write both agents' names here, and then you don't need to fill out section B. Okay, now this is a big one where people skip putting info in here. So don't do that. Put everything in here. Again, multiple different entities are looking at this during the phase of this transaction. So put all the information in here for the listing firm, listing agent name, listing agent's license number, their broker's number. Okay, ask the other agent if you don't know it. Look in bright. It should be in bright on the listing. If you're not the listing agent, you can look them up that way. Get that information in here. And for the commissions due here, this is very important. This should match whatever's in bright. Okay, so commission due to listing firm, leave it blank. Okay, it says per listing agreement here. There is a fill in the box here. So sometimes people fill it in, but I actually prefer when it's just left blank. Okay, because really, if you're the buyer's agent filling this out, you only know what your commission is. You actually don't know what the listing agent's is. So you don't want to put 2.5% plus $100 in here and then be wrong, and then you have to change it just for that. So you can leave it blank, there's nothing wrong with that. And then for your commission, this is the buyer's, or I should say the buyer's commission goes here. This is the buyer's commission here. Okay, this is the listing firm, and then this is the other firm. And you're just going to copy what's in bright. So it might say 2.5% minus 150, it might just say 2.5%, might say 3% minus 150, 200, whatever. Copy that and paste it into here for the commission due to your firm. All right, 32, self-explanatory. If somebody's a licensee, they have to disclose it. And their name goes right here. Okay, now this is all the other docs that are in this file, not, depending on how you're watching this video, come from this section here, section 42. So each one of these checkbox corresponds to an addendum. So if something is checked off here, if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things are checked off here, that means you should have 5 additional documents, 5 addenda that also will be filled out and signed with this deal, and there's a video for every single one of them too in the Google Drive. So, but yeah, you want to just look at this section 42 and say, do any of these apply in this deal? Is there a contingency? Is there an HOA? Is there an FHA or VA loan? And if there is, you check it off, and then you go in DocuSign, find the corresponding document, fill it out, have the client sign it, and attach it along with this contract. These are standard addenda. Standard documents created by the New Jersey Association of Realtors. New Jersey Association of Realtors. Section 42, all standard documents, all in DocuSign, all under forms, under NJAR. Easy to find and fill out. Most of them are 2 pages. Section 43, okay, maybe could be the most important section of the contract. This is the only space that they give us to write whatever we want, which is extremely dangerous. So this is where you'll type crap. When I get a contract, an agent sends me a contract, I scroll right to this section. I ignore everything else and scroll to this section. The reason is because everything else is fill in the blanks and checking stuff off. I want to see this first, because this is where we put in additional things we negotiated, like buyers paying the first $10,000 in an appraisal, buyers taking it as is, buyers doing this, weird stuff goes in here. And so I want to make sure, or suitable housing contingency, whatever is negotiated in your deal is going to get thrown in here. And I can't emphasize it strongly enough that if you're typing a lot of stuff in here, your client should have an attorney involved. All right, I would say, if you know your client's going to have an attorney involved, it really doesn't matter. It matters what you write in here. You want it to be, clear and concise, but the attorney will review it and will change whatever language you wrote in here. They're going to take a sentence that you write and turn it into 3 paragraphs. So you really need to be clear and concise. Make sure that if you gave this contract to me or some other random person on the street and you said, read this and tell me what it means, they should be able to tell you, okay, so if the appraisal comes in low, the buyer's going to cover the first $1,000 not to exceed the purchase price, or make sure that your language is really tight in here. This is the section where we get into trouble, in addition to our blank contract addendum. So that's it for the contract. Almost a half an hour. I know this one's definitely a little bit trickier, but review it, read it. It's not rocket science. These are very, very fast and easy to fill these out when you're doing it a lot. It's just consistency and doing it over and over again. So hope it helps.